Are you looking to ride from DC to Cumberland on the C&O Towpath Trail? Hi, we are Roosevelt's Ride.
And today we're going to talk about our adventure on the C&O and maybe share a little bit of our experience and give an honest review.
Yep, we definitely had an amazing time on the trail. We started in Cumberland, so we rode it in the opposite direction. We rode from Cumberland to DC, and at that very beginning part, I guess before we get into that, let's talk about some of the happy places that you should definitely make sure to check out on the trail. I kind of jumped right in there.
A little bit ahead of ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, a little excited.
It's very, very fun trail. Here we go.
But, the little placket right at the very beginning, it's right where the Allegheny Passage and the C&O meet. They have a nice medallion on the floor and a really nice...
It's a fantastic photo
thing.
It really is.
What is the thing?
I don't know.
The signage.
It's a sign. It's a big black sign that says C&O. It has a donkey and a guy telling you to barge.
It's great fun. It's a great place to make sure you get a picture at.
Yeah, you can't miss it, especially if you rode through that, rode through Cumberland the next day like we did. And that's where our Allegheny adventure stopped and our C&O started. So be sure to get a picture there. One of my favorite landmarks, so to speak, was the Pawpaw Tunnel. Actually, that was really fun. That was on kind of the middle of the first day.
It was.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of on and off closures. So I know a lot of people have been having to ride around it recently. But hopefully they'll get that all fixed up because we walked our bikes through that.
We were lucky enough to be able to do that, yeah.
And it was really cool. That is a very long tunnel. And we know people who have actually...
so dark.
People have actually ridden through it. And I'm
crazy.
Like, no.
Nope, not for us.
It was... Not with all our stuff. Well, no, not for us.
Well, because the walkway's so narrow. Like, I don't understand if you're trying to ride through this way and don't have, like, bike lights. Bring your bike lights for the Pawpaw Tunnel, too. But I don't understand how you're going to, like, two trains pass in the night, but it's a canal trail. So, but how you're going to get two bikes side by side like that?
We didn't have to face that, so hopefully you don't either if you go through the Pawpaw Tunnel.
And now you're there. Like, do a train whistle noise or something. I don't know. Anyway, what other sites did you like?
We can also talk, so it's hard to distinguish any locks or aqueducts from each other.
That's true.
There are some really amazing ones specifically, but, there are 80, 90 some.
Oh, yeah.
We should have looked that up.
Yeah, there's a lot
We're going to tell you how many locks there are right here.
Yeah, going to have to.
But, it's really cool to see all the different ones. But a few of, the really notable ones is there's one that has 7 locks, and over a mile and a quarter, it raises the canal 56 feet.
And there's another set just after that it's another 6 locks, and it raises it 49 feet in about... was it a mile and a half or so?
No, less than a mile.
Less than a mile, right. And so you get a little bit of downhill, but the locks just back to back to back like that. And like Morris Code, beautiful. Beautiful.
Those ones are closer to DC than they are to...
Oh, good point.
They're within the last 14 miles of DC. So if you're in DC and just want to go see some cool locks, that's a short little great trail. Yeah. And there's some amazing aqueducts. Like, it was really fun. Yeah. There was a few that were totally... dry, that we were in the canal and having a really great time, taking pictures and all that stuff.
Intact though.
Yeah, there are.
Like, for those of you who don't know what the aqueducts are, they're meant to carry boats over the Potomac River and on this path specifically. And oh man, I just imagine living back in the 20s and being able to boat across over a river. That's fun. Anyway.
Some of the other things that you're going to see are a whole bunch of remains. There are pump house remains. Yeah. There are mill remains. We saw quite a few different of those.
Well, a lot of the lockkeepers' houses, the pump house remains, if you didn't say that already, but the lockkeepers' houses, some of them you can actually rent along. We didn't do that along the C&O, but a lot of them are, if they're not restored, they're in very good condition. But and they're all different. They're all different and built at different times, and they're gorgeous. It's fun to kind of stop, and they offer a great break spot. Yes, at those locks.
There's even a few that in the summer you can tour. We were a little bit too early in our timing to tour some of them, and due to some national, pandemic stuff, not everything was open for us. But we still had an amazing time. Seeing the locks from the outside and getting some really great pictures of those lock houses.
So many. There was also a couple other areas that had a lockkeeper's house, sort of, but it was also the dams that are still the active hydroelectric dams. Those dams were built to supply water to the canal, but they're still under operation. Some of the mill houses as hydroelectric plants. So good on you, Maryland, for keeping that going. And
Get that renewable energy up there.
What were some of the other areas you really enjoyed?
Well, I know this history buff was very excited to go see.
Well, on day 3 of our adventure, we took a 6-mile detour, total 6 miles detour off the C&O to go to Sharpsburg and Antietam National Battlefield. I've always wanted to go there, and I never thought, of course, I'm getting there by bicycle. And it's very hilly if you decide to do that, so just keep that in mind.
It was very hilly with our fully loaded bikes. At least we didn't have the rolling resistance of the canal.
Yeah,
of the towpath, but we were not quite fully prepared for the long mile and a half, 2-mile trek up.
It's kind of steep. Yeah.
It's just long.
Yeah. The grade wasn't too bad. It's still bikeable, but
it's very bikeable.
And we also, when we were biking through Antietam, we decided not to go down to Burnside Bridge on our bikes because that would have been like a 1/4-mile bike down and then bike back up. That hill
really
out
fast down the hill. And then we would walk back up to the top.
Right. But coming out from Burnside Bridge, it would have extended, which already is probably a mile-long hill coming out of Antietam. But the downhill out of Antietam.
To get back onto the canal trail.
Make sure your brakes work.
We were going fast.
Yeah, not going to say how fast, but it was fast. Make sure your brakes work, because my back brake wasn't fully engaged half the time. But Harpers Ferry, that was kind of the end that same day. So we got to go to Sharpsburg and Antietam, and then of course camping in Harpers Ferry. Yes. Oh my gosh, that just going around that, it was the site of John Brown's raid in 1859. So I always wanted to go there, but gorgeous city, and it is one of the most well-preserved 19th century cities. So please take a day, however much time you have, to check out Harpers Ferry, walk around, take a walk through history.
But also make sure that you get there early, because the entire city shuts down by 7 p.m., which we didn't know. We rolled into town, and then we ate some of our dinner just on the park bench so that we could, then go get a beer. We should have gone and gotten the beer first because we barely made it into the thing before they closed. So definitely make sure you get there early or spend the next morning adventuring through the town.
I would like to mention, to get from the C&O, you do have to cross the Potomac River, and it is a nice, windy staircase. It's wide enough to get bikes up, but just park your bike at the bottom and take some of your stuff off, carry your bikes up, park them, and then take your stuff up. It won't be too bad.
They do also have bike locks. If you're just going over to Harpers Ferry for lunch, for a short break, you don't have to take your bike. You can lock your bike. They have plenty of bike locks there, and you can walk over. We were just camping on the other side of the river as well.
Right.
So we had to haul all our stuff up that fun circular staircase.
Well worth it. Because there's no circular staircase to get back down into Harpers Ferry. You just have to go back down it when you get back on the trail the next day.
Yeah.
Anyway, what didn't you have another place that you really enjoyed?
Yes, Great Falls.
Oh, right, yeah.
It is beautiful. It is a lot of fun, but make sure when you get there, you don't just stop at the very first falls. You have to follow the goat path all the way to the end to see the really beautiful falls.
We ended up going out there twice. We really had our heart set on getting to Great Falls at sunset because we wanted those beautiful pictures. So take the time. It's definitely well worth it.
Very worth it. Well, let's move on and talk about timing. When is the best time to ride this trail?
Right, because as we said in our Allegheny review, that we rode it in by this time it had been early, mid-May. So all the raining from the days prior had made the C&O very soupy, very muddy. Especially that first day. Yes. And it was a little chilly that morning. So
you do have to be aware that if you're riding it in, April and May, you're kind of there on mud season, and you might be drudging through some mud, having some large, long puddles to deal with. But the trail did dry out very quickly because it had rained for 3 days straight, and it was not little bits of rain. It was a lot of rain. And by our second day, the trail was very dry, and we were not having any problems.
Not really. The trail surface wasn't too bad coming out of Cumberland, except for the mud and stuff. The further you get down the C&O, it is rocky, muddy, tree roots. So just keep that in mind. Actually, but there is a point where you can kind of take a bit of a break from all the rocks, the pounding that your sit bones will feel. It's the West Maryland Rail Trail.
Yes.
Yeah. We hit that on day 2. It runs 15 miles, right adjacent to the Canal Towpath.
So you see all the same sights. You're just on cement.
And if you do decide to ride the West Maryland Rail Trail, locals told us about it. We had heard about it in reading books and some of those other resources we mentioned in other videos. But we decided to check it out. And there are some people that say, oh, you haven't did the whole C&O if you popped on the Western Maryland Rail Trail. It depends on what school of thought you are on that. But at the same time, it's your ride. Enjoy it. We did that, so
yes,
yeah. And we got some great views of the canal from the vantage point of the Western Maryland Rail Trail, so I loved it. I wouldn't do anything else.
I had a lot of fun with it too. Right. The other thing I want to talk about is how many gnats do you think you ate?
Enough for an entire meal, at least 2 days in a row.
Yeah. There are a lot of gnats, and we are told in the height of the summer, June and July, because the canal sometimes turns into a swampy pond mess.
Right.
That's a fabulous time for them to get all matey and
same is true for mosquitoes.
So just be aware.
Yeah.
If you do ride it in the height of summer, you might be eating some more gnats. So
bring bug spray.
Bug spray, and there was definitely a time I put my little buff up over my face.
I did it so many times.
Because we were going through quite a few gnats, and it was like, okay, I'm done eating them for the day.
I'll tell you one thing, though, that did impress me, other than the amount of bugs that we did miss, because we rode it in May, was the camping. Like, there was so much more camping availability. What did you think about that? Like, I thought that was great.
There was a lot of free hiker-biker campsites. They're primitive, but they have an outhouse. And they have water, the pumped iodine. That's a lot of fun. Pumping your own water.
It's kind of cool, yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. But they were very nice campsites. Some of them were very close to the river. And then there are a few paid sites that are a little bit closer to towns that you can stay in.
Yeah.
But there was no fun little houses with a wall missing.
The Adirondack shelters from the Allegheny. There wasn't any of those.
Names.
There wasn't any of those like we had a couple once on the
We were really hoping for some, but those are only on the Allegheny.
Well, but and they're very accessible too. Real quick, from the trail, they're literally right off the trail, and they're very easy to get to. Some are upkept very well, others aren't. But I would like to mention that during certain times of year, the Pawpaw Tunnel does close. I think it's after November. Please fact check me on that. And then also some of the water obviously gets locked and shut off after into the late fall and early winter time. So just keep that in mind if you do have a nice, dry, or a little bit warmer day and you're out just for an exercise ride when you're on the C&O, that certain times of year it can bring your own water. For sure. But we didn't have a problem drinking the iodized water. It wasn't too bad.
I definitely was surprised by the color because I had it wrong in my head.
Right.
But,
She thought it was blue.
I don't know why.
It's definitely gold.
We have it on film.
Yeah, we do. It's fun.
So what are your final thoughts on this trail?
My final thoughts on this trail were just like the Allegheny. Honestly, I would do this entire route as one ride again. It's on my back. I mean, as soon as we rode it, it got right back onto my bucket list. Like,
sure did.
I absolutely will ride I feel like we have to ride this trail again.
100%.
10 out of 10.
I think it would be beautiful to even ride it in the fall with the fall colors.
Yeah.
Like, it might be a little cold again, a little rainy again, but with all those fall colors, I think that could be a really beautiful time.
Remember that section that was like where you're not really you're still on the towpath, but you have a cliff on this side, and you have the Potomac River, because we went west and east.
Yes.
Remember that section? Like, can you imagine that in the fall? Oh, the colors and the river, and just amazing.
We definitely recommend this trail, 10 out of 10. And there are so many easy ways to get to this trail. You can get to it to Amtrak, you can fly there, and you can do many, many different things.
And there's so much to do in Cumberland the night before you go, and then the morning of, breakfast places. And where we stayed the night that we set out on the C&O was the Fairfield Inn. It was right off the trail. They had a bike washing station outside. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We got on a good night's sleep after freezing our butts off the day previously on the Allegheny.
Yes.
But please ride it. It's definitely worth riding it. Some sections of the trail are upkept better than others. The section near Harpers Ferry is recently upkept, so we found that pretty smooth. But and your butt will get a pounding sometimes. That's a bad way to say it, but endurance trial in certain sections with the mud and all that. So if you hear any of those, yeah, it's true. But 10 out of 10 for me.
Yep. Definitely check out our series for this trail so you can see how our adventure looked and what you could expect to see on this trail.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Roosevelt's Ride so we can offer you a few tips, tricks, and snack ideas to get you on your next adventure.
We will see you on the trail.
Take care.